This is just the beginning of many conversations for good health, good business, good life. Welcome. We're glad that you're here. And now if the governor and everybody else, would you make your way here? Everyone else, please stand.
Where else but in an organization like Together Louisiana, you will find two Episcopalians co-chairing a meeting in a Baptist sanctuary with the Catholic governor. Nowhere else but in Louisiana. And a Jewish cantor. Nowhere else but in Together Louisiana. I want you to remember that.
As many in our legislature have figured out, we can't cut our way to prosperity. No, but we see in Together Louisiana that the economic development and growth is not an either or compromise, but a both and. It is not either or, but it is both and. Both high corporate productivity and workers with higher salaries and higher skill. Both healthy corporate profits and workers with adequate health care. It is not citizens or corporations. It is not people or profits. It is not either or, but both and.
My name is Erica Zucker. I'm with the Workplace Justice Project in New Orleans, and I'm a member of Together New Orleans. And I was warned that I would be following Reverend Jackson. I have the task of outlining the two philosophies of economic development. The first model is one that is based on incentives, giving away subsidies and tax breaks. It involves promise of low taxes, low wages, little regulation, with a goal of making it cheap to come and do business. The second model goes beyond the giveaways and seeks to invest in all the factors that affect prosperity. We know in Louisiana what number one looks like because we lead the nation in corporate subsidies, in Model 1 economic development. Louisiana gives more in corporate development subsidies per capita than any other state. We give 10 times the national average, 18 times the average of our southern neighbors, 32 times as much as Texas. And 80% of those subsidies are ITEP. So Louisiana has historically used Model 1, and here is where it's gotten us. We are at or near the bottom of almost every category that most matters to the lives of the people of our state. Our overall economic outcome is 50th, the bottom in the nation. So our core argument today is that when you go so far down the road of Model 1 in the name of economic development, that you undermine the ability of public institutions to make fundamental investments. Or, in other words, when you give away all your money, you don't have any money to spend. You don't strengthen economic development, you undermine it. So what would Model 2 look like? Next, you're going to hear some stories that illustrate what Model 2 would and could look like for our state.
My name is Kate Parker, and I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana, with the New Orleans Food Policy Advisory Committee. So, slides up, please. Thank you. Many of us in this room have seen this iconic image of the Circle Food Store. This African-American-owned grocery store was a community asset. Not only could neighbors buy produce, but they could also find school uniforms, visit their pharmacist, get their eyes checked, and also go to the bank. However, once the storm waters flooded this store, we realized we had a long-standing food access issue in the city of New Orleans that was really before the storm of Katrina. As you can see here, with 31 grocery stores open, many parts of the city were still low food access neighborhoods. Hurricane Katrina worsened this problem, cutting the number of full-service grocery stores in half. Residents spent their grocery money in adjacent parishes. Had there been a store open in their neighborhood, they could have shopped closer to home. In response, next slide. In response, the City of New Orleans, along with the Food Policy Advisory Committee, the Prevention Research Center, Market Umbrella, the organization I work for, among many other advocates, worked with the city to bring about the Fresh Food Retailer Initiative, where the City of New Orleans put up $7 million and a CDFI, the HOPE, Enterprise Corporation leveraged an addition $7 million for a $14 million investment. And here's what we've accomplished. Here we have an old abandoned Schwegmann's that was closed, and then today a thriving Whole Foods grocery store, cost-conscious Whole Foods, I might add, on Broad Street. And again, in the 7th Ward at the intersection of Claiborne and St. Bernard Avenue, the Circle Food Store, which was gutted during Katrina, and today a thriving grocery store with a produce section that meets the needs of the neighborhood. These grocery store projects have created an additional 179,000 square feet of grocery store retail space and another 200 full-time jobs for our city. Next slide. So now we have more grocery stores than we did before Hurricane Katrina, and that is economic development.
Hello, my name is Pat LaDuff, and I want you to know we are doing this. Yes, we are doing this. Hold those cards up. This is where we're going to be Monday, City Hall, and we're going to be demanding that we make this happen in Louisiana, because giving us fresh food will help us more ways than one. So one thing, you need to sign up. 2 things, call our mayor, call your council member, and ask them to support making sure that Louisiana is healthy. See you on Monday.
Good afternoon. My name is Diane Hanley. I'm with St. George Catholic Church and Together Baton Rouge. For the past 81 years, Louisiana has done something no other state in the country does or has done. And that is that it has created an incentive program and tax exemption program that allows one body the authority to give away somebody else's revenue. In 1936, Governor Richard Lesh championed a constitutional amendment that on the ballot allowed tax exemptions on poultry, cattle, and livestock. But what it did was really very, very different. That amendment created the Industrial Tax Exemption Program. Over the last 20 years, it has authorized $23 billion in exemptions. That's billion with a B. This year alone, local schools are losing $720 million. That's 20% of MFP. And other local entities are losing $1.3 billion. That's almost $2 billion in 1 year. Governor, we are not the first to pay attention or to try and change this. Others have looked at it, others have tried and not succeeded. But your executive order, for the first time in 81 years, has reformed the largest and least accountable corporate giveaway program in the country. Your order requires that the local entities whose revenue is at stake will determine for themselves whether and to what extent exemptions will be granted. It requires that jobs be created. It determines that maintenance investments are not eligible. Governor, for the last year and a half, we have been wrangling to have that implemented as fully as possible. But what we have not done is taken a moment to stop and say thank you. Governor, I don't get too many chances as a Catholic woman to stand up at the front of the church and get this kind of response. So I'm going to say it one more time. I know you didn't want them to do it a second time, but I'm going to bring them to their feet another time because you have made history and you are changing the future of our state, and we want to publicly say thank you.
That's pretty good. Our state, Louisiana, is dead last or second to last in obesity rates. Let's observe the diabetes rates by county, or in our case, parish. Look at these maps, starting 2004 to 2012. It's getting worse. And even in 2016-17, it's not improving. And the darkness in these maps represents people's lives and a quality of life. Let's not just look at this map and see some cold object up there. We're looking at our neighbors, our citizens. And healthcare costs related to obesity. In Louisiana 2016, we spent over $6 billion. $1.6 billion in Medicaid alone. So you see, it's not only a health and quality of life issue, but also a fiscal concern. But we do have an element of the new vision of economic development in place. The Healthy Food Retail Act was created in 2009 by the legislature with overwhelming bipartisan support as an incentive fund to bring grocery stores to low food access areas. Access to healthy food is a key contributor to lowering obesity and diabetes rates and consequently reducing health issues and related health care costs. There should be a balance between the economic development Model 1 and Model 2. And as you mentioned, Governor, a balance of priorities. Since 2009, the industrial tax exemption has granted billions, I want to say that, billions or tens of billions of dollars to corporations. And these exemptions were granted routinely and entirely, as Mr. Adley would do, in global, what they call. They would just take 150, 200 exemptions, not really go through them, and global, and they were approved without a time lag. Together Louisiana, Governor, was working with your administration, got $1 million 2 years in a row of federal funding for the Healthy Food Retail Act. It has been over 18 months and still no action plan as required by the federal government to implement the program has been submitted. Our specific question regarding this program is about a timeline to jumpstart it. But before I ask the question, just want to make clear that part of a broader goal we have for our state is to start giving these kinds of economic development projects like food access and workforce development the same priority and streamlining that happens with corporate subsidies. So, Governor Edwards, our question is, what is a reasonable timeline to move the $1 million in Healthy Food Retail Act funding to implementation?
Edgar, thank you for the question. One of our problems on that map you just showed a while ago is people here cook too well. I just want to share that with you, but clearly we have to exercise more and eat healthier. Look, the timeline moving forward is the Office of Community Development oversees the Community Development Block Grant Program for our state. And those dollars are administered by Housing and Urban Development. Now, we are working with the State Department of Agriculture and Forestry to come up with a specific program. We believe that program will be done in the next several weeks. And then in the spring of 2018, so a few months from now, I have directed the Office of Community Development to submit that action plan for approval to HUD. And when that action plan is approved, that money will be available for that particular purpose with healthy foods in our retail outlets. So that is the timeline we have moving forward.
Thank you.
You can't make footprints maintaining the status quo. To make footprints, one is required to move. Let us then be up and doing, not talking about, not continuing to debate, but doing. Building a broader vision of economic development. So together, Louisiana, are you ready for the journey? Now, that's not a rhetorical question. It requires a response. Together, Louisiana, are you ready for the journey? Are you ready to put progressive footsteps in the sands of time? The vision has been made plain. Let us run with the vision.